Hello, hi, it's me, Bamdev Poudyal here. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Bachelor and Master English. I've been taking classes on English language and literature courses for Bachelor and Master levels. Today, I'm talking about Introduction to Linguistics, including your queries about what language is. I shall be talking about definitions of language on the basis of its characteristics. I'm sure you'll accompany me till the end of this video. If you are new to this channel, please like, comment and share this video. Please don't forget to subscribe my channel for more updates and translations from world literature. Let's begin today's lesson from linguistics. That is called the scientific study of language. First of all, today's question is, what is language? While talking about linguistics, as I have already mentioned it, the study of language in a scientific way is linguistics. And what is language? Simply speaking, language is a set of signals by which we communicate. It's the most unique gift that sets human beings apart from the rest of living creatures. It is the greatest accomplishment of human civilization. It is means by which we can perform several things: communication, thinking, group solidarity, interlinguistic conflict, nation building, control, creation, and so forth. We cannot think of any social, academic, artistic, political activities without language. Nothing in the world approximates the human language for flexibility, complexity, precision, productivity, and sheer quantity. It has proved such a valuable asset for human beings. Thus, language is undoubtedly the most important asset for human civilization. Language is defined by different linguists and different scholars in different ways. Here is one definition of language from Britannica.com. A language, a system of conventional spoken, manual, or signed or written symbols by which human beings as members of a social group and participants in its culture express themselves. The functions of language include communication, the expression of identity, play, imaginative expression, and emotional release. That's the definition of language. It's a kind of comprehensive definition, I think. I have quoted it here for your ease so that you can learn the definition of language. Scholars defining language in different ways here. I have not quoted all the linguists who have defined language, the linguists or those language scholars who define language in their own way. It's not the place to include all these, but I've tried to put some definition. Many definitions of language have been proposed. Henry Sweet, an English phonetician and language scholar, stated, "Language is the expression of ideas by means of speech sounds combined into words. Words are combined into sentences. This combination answering to that of ideas into thoughts." And the American linguist Bernard Bloch and George L. Trager formulated the following definition of language. A language is a system of arbitrary vocal symbols by means of which a social group cooperates. Any succinct definition of language makes a number of presuppositions and begs a number of questions. The first, for example, puts excessive weight on thought, and the second uses arbitrary in a specialized though legitimate way. Language has been defined variously. A language may be defined as an arbitrary, voluntary vocal system of human communication. This is the most acceptable definition of language, which includes some key words like arbitrary, voluntary, vocal, systematic, human, and communication. They are explained briefly below. Written symbols are the imperfect imitation of spoken sounds. So, many linguists like Sweet, Bloomfield, Palmer, Fries have regarded language as vocal, which also regard as the basic characteristic of human language. This is all about what language is vocal. Second, language is voluntary. Language is voluntary because human beings utter sounds and words by their wish. It is called voluntarily produce sound. To get or receive something from other people, human beings produce complete utterance which are not produced by others' desire. For instance, if somebody is hungry, he or she asks for something to eat. Sometimes other people compel a person to utter something which is not called voluntarily produced, but language is mostly voluntary because it is uttered with the volition and interest of the speaker. The third one is language is arbitrary. By arbitrary, we mean that there is no inherent or logical relation, similarity between any given feature of language and its meaning that is entirely arbitrary, since there is no direct relationship between sound or form of word and the object which is indicated by it. There is no reason the same crow of cock should be called kukurika in Nepali, cock-a-doodle-doo in English, cocorico in French, kikiriki in German, koke-koko in Japanese, and so on. Furthermore, these arbitrary relationships are also described as conventional, which are characterized by inconsistency, randomness, subjective decision, etc. Next characteristic is regarded with system. Language is a system of systems. It is basically a system of the principal function of which is communication. Language does this with the help of number of interdependent systems. That's why language is sometimes called a system of systems. Language has a system of organizing sounds, system of making words, system of arranging words, system of organizing meaning, and system of visual symbols for writing. These systems are also called phonology, morphology, syntax, semantics, and graphic systems. Each of the systems introduced above functions according to some established patterns. In each system, a limited number of items are used over and over again in accordance with a few permissible patterns of combination. Hence, language is a system that is an organized body, not random mass of sounds or words. Next characteristic that relates to definition of language is language is human. It's human in the sense that only human beings have been endowed with language. No other animals can acquire human language because of its complex structure and their physical inadequacies. By physical inadequacies here we mean animals do not have the vocal organs and a type of brains which human beings possess. Human language is open-ended, extendable and modifiable, which animal communication system lacks. Though animals communicate with one another, they cannot produce distinctive sounds which human beings can. Hence, language is undoubtedly and unquestionably human phenomenon. Another thing that is related to the definition of language is a means of communication because It is the most powerful, convenient, and permanent means and form of communication. Now, linguistic symbols such as expressive gestures, signals of various kinds, traffic lights, road signs, flags, emblems, and many more such things, as well as shorthand, Morse, and other codes, the diff and dom and braille alphabets, symbols of mathematics and logic, etc., are all also means of communication. Yet they are not so flexible, comprehensive, perfect, and extensive as language. Language is the best means of self expression. Language is used to send and receive messages. People use it in various purposes, such as expressing their thoughts, desires, emotions, feelings, storing of knowledge, transacting messages, and so many things. It is the language which fuses past, present, and future together. That's the power of language. And language is a form of social behavior. As we have already discussed, language is a means of communication. This learning of language is possible. The social form of language is only possible in society. A human child learns to speak the language. Language is a form of social behavior. As discussed and mentioned earlier, language has to be learned. Without learning, we cannot produce language. This learning of language is possible only in society. A human child learns to speak the language of the community or the group in which he or she is placed. A Chinese infant, if placed in Nepalese land, will easily learn to speak Nepali or other native language they are spoken in the community. He or she picks up what language is and social setup in which she or he grows. Language is thus a form of social behavior. And language is a vehicle of thought. When we use language, we use it to deliver our thoughts. We use it to express what we learn, what we want to deliver, and what we want to discuss. And language is powerful medium for expressing thoughts, desires, sentiments, and emotions, as well as feelings. And it is conventional. A human language has its own convention, and on the basis of its spoken and written convention that we have learned, and we are trying to teach and help others learn, because it is conventional and we have to use certain patterns, certain systems, certain symbols, certain structures, certain functions, and certain levels of language that we need to incorporate. So this conventional pattern of language is to be used, and this is another thing. So we have seen these different characteristics of language, and after discussing about different characteristics, let's see what we have seen here. Language is primarily vocal, in which speech comes as primary and writing comes secondary. Language is voluntary. Language is arbitrary. Language is a system of systems. Language is capable of distinguishing human from other creatures. Language is a means of communication. Language is a form of social behavior. Language is a vehicle of thought, and it is conventional. So these points just I try to remind you, and let's see. Before we wrap up the session today, let me conclude what I have been talking about regarding the language. It is difficult to define the term like language as it is difficult to define the term life. It's a very complex matter. Life cannot be easily defined, so is the language. Just as life can be defined only in terms of the characteristics, growth, reproduction, respiration, circulation, etc., language can also be defined on the basis of its characteristics, as already mentioned here. Linguists try to define language in their way, but the most comprehensive definition of language can be summed up as language is an arbitrary, voluntary vocal system of human communication. That's the end of today's discussion. Up to now, you have been listening and watching the lecture on language, the definition of language. If you enjoyed it, please give a like to this video. If you have some queries, put your words in the comment box. I plead you to subscribe the channel for more updates on language and literature courses for bachelor and master levels. Thank you very much for your time and thank you for your attention.